Good morning and Assalamu alaikum, dear children. Here's your teacher, Miss Bisma. Today, lecture would be focused on Oscar Wilde's celebrated novella, The Canterville Ghost, which was first published in 1887. This text combines the elements of satire, comedy, and supernatural, offering us a unique perspective on the cultural differences between the Britain and the American during the Victorian period. We will analyze its characters, themes, and literary techniques to understand why this work remains significant in both literature and cultural studies. So, let us continue and dive in to understand the world of Oscar Wilde and his significant and remarkable work, The Canterville Ghost. Before diving in, we will let us know about the Oscar Wilde, who was born in year 1854 and died in 1900s. He was considered as one of the greatest literary figures of late Victorian era. Before moving forward, we must know about the term Victorian era that I have used. The Victorian era started in 1837 and ended in 1901 was the period of Queen Victoria's that reigns in Britain. It was a time of great change marked by industrial progress, new innovations, strict societal rules, and focus on morality and manners. Literature, art, and culture flourished with the famous writers like Charles Dickens and the Bronte sisters shaping the age. It was also a time of contrast, wealth and poverty, tradition and progress, elegance and hardship. So, it was all about the Victorian era that reigns in the time period of Queen Victoria. Oscar Wilde was born in Dublin and educated at Trinity College in Oxford. He was famous for his sharp wit, flamboyant style, and satirical writing. So, what is the term that satirical writing is? It states that where the writer they just try to pen down all the societal evils that are happening within the society, like injustice, inequality, biasness, these all things. The major works that he depicted and wrote and he drafted were The Picture of the Dorian Gray, which was a novel, and The Importance of the Being Earnest. Canterville Ghost was Wilde's first short story that was written in the year 1887 for a magazine, which was later showcases and the blending of the gothic horror with the comedy and the irony. So, why his writing style was being very satirical and ironical? Because while we'll be studying more about this novel, we get to know about the American and the Britain's cultures and their traditions that they were being following up. Historical and the literary context of the novel was published in 1887 during the Victorian period, an age that fascinated with the ghost stories. Victorians loved the Gothic literature but were also increasingly skeptical due to the science. As I have mentioned earlier, that during the Victorian era, it was a period of industrialization. Obviously, if the time era that was developing that much high in science and technology, the people were becoming too much skeptical. Rather than believing on the supernatural things or the nature, they were more concerned about the technology and the innovations and more on the science. So they just, we could say that they just for their sake of pastime activities, they love to listen to stories, but they don't believe on such kind of supernatural entities, although. So far, under this thing, while combining the supernatural horror with the social satire, which reflect the cultural clash between the conservative English traditions and the modern American values. The novella can be read as both a parody of a Gothic ghost stories and a commentary on a social class. So, we can read this novel as parody of a gothic ghost stories, and as also as well as a commentary on the social class, which will be later being depicted and being showed by the different characters. And we can see this thing in the character of Mr. Hirambi Otis as a social class. If we are commenting about that, we could see these aspects within the character of Mr. Hirambi Otis, which we will be studying later, and then we will be evaluating that how. Now, before starting the chapter number one, we must know the setting of the chapter, of all the scenario that have been set in the chapter number one. The main setting when the novella opened, we get to know there's a Canterville chase, an ancient English mansion, which is described as old, historic, and the grand, with the Gothic features like a large hall, stained windows, and the portraits. And the reputation that the Oscar Wilde has tried to depict it within the novel is that a haunted for a century, the chase is haunted for the centuries, filled with the dark legends. What does it symbolize? It symbolizes and represents the weight of history and British aristocratic pride. So, over here, the term British aristocratic pride represents that once the Cantervilles they belong from a British aristocracy means the people, the noble people that they have enjoyed a kind of a nobility within the society, a high rank in a society they got as a noble people. Later, as the Wilds set the tone of the Gothic ironies, but quickly undermine it with the humor as well. The main characters that were being introduced within the chapter number one, it's Mr. Hirambi Otis, Mrs. Otis, Washington Otis, Virginia Otis, the Otis twins, Lord Canterville, Sir Simon de Canterville. So there's a small introduction about the each character. Mr. Hirambi Otis, the American minister, self-confident, rejects the superstitions, a true belonging to a true modern new world of America. Mrs. Otis, a practical, sensible woman, embodies the American modernity. Washington Otis, the eldest son, concerned with the cleanliness and the efficiency, which we will be later uh, came to know about his efficiency within the novel in the chapter number one, that what kind of efficiency that he has done in the chapter number one. Then later the Virginia Otis, we could say her as the protagonist or the main character of the novella because of her nobility, gentle and compassionate. Her major role would be seen within the entire novel. Then we are having the Otis twins, which are very mischievous, good at the pranking, and they just brings a kind of a comic relief within the novel. Then Lord Canterville, a former owner who warns the Otis family about the ghost. Then Sir Simon de Canterville, the ghost introduced through the legend as spirit haunting the chase. He's a small and the very, really, very short um, key point of the chapter number one. The story begins with the Lord Canterville offering to sell his family mansion. He honestly warns Mr. Otis that the house is haunted by the ghost of Sir Simon. Lord Canterville explained the ghost long story, including the sighting and the strange events that have been faced by a lot of people, those who try to live within this chase. Mr. Otis refused to believe the supernatural, stating America don't fear of ghosts. By Mr. Otis, this statement, we get to know that America is full of modernity now. They're not believing on such kind of a superstitious beliefs, and they are being very skeptical rather than believing on these superstitious beliefs. means they are very rational, believing on the practicality rather than believing on these kind of a mythical things. So, despite the warnings, the Otis family decided to buy the Canterville chase. The chapter is set up with a cultural conflict, British superstition, and the American rationalism. This thing should be kept in the mind. Americans and the Britons, their compare and contrast, and their pragmatism between that, we must have to understand about these two things about the novella. Okay, let's discuss the further things of the novella. The character sketching. Mr. Hiram, you have to be really very uh, conscious and being focused while reading the novel. Each and every character is having their own contradictions and they are reflecting each aspect of American culture and the Britain culture. We could say that Mr. Hiram Otis is depicting a true embodiment of American spirit, and that through his actions and the gesture, he's just truly trying to represent the Americans' true spirit within the novel. What his role was in the novel, he was American minister, a buyer of the Canterville chase, practical, confident, skeptical, and modern. He believes what were his beliefs. He rejects the ghost and the superstitions and values. His valuation was on the facts and the practical based things, genuine things. He was embodiment of the American rationalism. Now we are having the themes in chapter number one. The rationalism versus the superstition. What is rationalism means being very skeptical, believing on the real things that relates with the reality, which don't have any kind of a concern with the delusional world and which can't be happening in the real world, versus the superstition that the mythical based things that having the kind of a, like connection with the delusional world and the things that might not be happening, like we could say that they be used to be fascinate but they don't have any kind of a link with the reality. Then America versus England, the contrast between the new world of modernity and the old world traditions. Satire of the Gothic literature while mocks the seriousness of the ghost in the society. In the story, he just mock out this kind of a seriousness within the story through the ghost, and he told all the things through his writing. Honesty versus the skepticism is being portrayed in the character of Mr. Lord, the Canterville, who just tried to warn the Otis's family from the very beginning about whatsoever the paranormal activities that the rest of the people, those who just try to live in within the chase, he just warned the Otises that what kind of the other entity based activities were being faced by the people. So, despite all those warnings, the Otis family insisted upon and they purchased the Canterville chase, believing on their American modernity. Then materialism, the Mr. Otis treats the haunted house as a business deal, even joking about the valuing the ghost as well. Now we are having the symbolism in the chapter number one, the Canterville chase, the ghost legend, Mr. Otis, and the sale of mansion. These are kind of a symbolism that we may be encountering in the chapter number one. Number one represent the fading aristocracy and the burden of history. Then we are having the ghost legend embodies the superstition and the weight of the traditions. Mr. Otis symbolizes the practicality and the reason for the modern American spirit. And the sale of mansion just symbolizes about the British aristocracy sells out with the wealthy Americans. These are the important quotes that are being written within the novel. that we are going to analyze and discuss about that Lord Canterville, the ghost, has been well authenticated by the family, which shows that English belief in the tradition and respect for history, like the ghost are having a kind of some prior knowledge about the people, those who are going to arrive. Then we are having Mr. Otis. What did he said by under his American modernity? What he said that I will take the furniture and the ghost as at a valuation. Means despite that selling the furniture, I'm also going to sell out the ghost itself as well. Illustrates the American practicality and the human, and then later then the narrator said the American minister bowed. Canterville chased despite the ghost reputation, which established the clash of superstitions and the rationalism. Now you all are familiar with the term superstition versus the rationalism, so I guess so it would be understandable to all of you. Now, the conclusion of chapter 1. The chapter introduced the main setting, characters, and the ghost legends. It represents the humor clash between the American skepticism and the British superstition. Wilde set the stage for the parody of the Gothic ghost stories. He established the theme of tradition, modernity, satire that continued to thought throughout the novella. The ghost is not yet seen but looms in the background, creating a kind of a suspense within the novella. Yet now, in the chapter number 1, the ghost has been not been appear in front of any of the artist family, but a kind of a hype was being created by Mr. Lord Canterville and Mrs. Umney, the housekeeper, who just tried to warn and told about the Sir Simon the Canterville, that how he assassinated his own wife. So the mind map of chapter number 1 is over here. The central idea, we get to know that the Otis family has purchased the Canterville Chase. Despite all the ghostly warnings, they least bother the things, and under the American modernity, they just purchased the Canterville Chase. So setting is done in the London in old English mansion which is haunted. Characters are Lord Canterville, Mr. Otis, Mrs. Otis, Virginia Otis, Washington Otis, and the twins Otis themselves, and obviously Sir Simon the Canterville is being introduced in the chapter number 1. But Sir Simon the Canterville, only his name has been mentioned, not his character itself. In the next chapters, he would be showed up. Um, then we are going to discuss. But right now, we must know the name of the character, Sir Simon the Canterville, whose spirit and the soul is being trying to haunt it, chase, and the people who are just try to adjusting themselves within the chase. He's just trying to doing what, making them scared and try to make them frightened. So the themes are the themes of rationalism and the superstition. Rationalism means being very practical, believing on the real things with the facts and figures, with the facts and correct information and all, you could say that. On the other hand, the superstition that the Britons, like Sir Lord the Canterville, he himself, he just told about all the long historical stories about his grand aunt as well, that what she has encountered within this chase, like being very superstitious, and things that he has faced. Then uh, it's being depicted within the novel. And the conflict we meant to be the term conflict means the problem that has been showed up in the novel is that belief in the ghost versus the dismissal of the superstition. We get to know that who believes in the ghost, which culture believes in the ghost. It is obviously the Britain culture. And who is the dismissal of the superstition? Obviously it's the Americans themselves. The tone has been used very humorous and satirical in the chapter number 1. Like you could say the mood of the chapter is humorous and the satirical. Now the character sketch of Lord Canterville. So Canterville, in the character of Lord Canterville, we get to know that his role is that he's a former owner of the Canterville Chase. His traits are he's very honest, courteous, and traditional. He is a strong believer in the family history and the ghost legend. He symbolizes the English aristocracy and the respect for the tradition. Again, I'm repeating the word aristocracy. It means the people or the noble people belonging from a higher upper class. What does he quoted? The ghost has been well authenticated by the family, like having a kind of a prior knowledge or the background information about the families, those who are just going to live in this Canterville chase. Now, later we get to know about the family sketches, we get to know about all the characters themselves, yet now we are familiar about all the characters, I guess. So, this thing is not to be repeated again and again. The compare and contrast between the British versus American views, yet now whatsoever the things and the points that I have shared, you must being familiar about the Americans and the Britain's concepts and their beliefs. Through the artist family, you could be familiarized by the Americans' beliefs and thought that how skeptical and rational they are, and on the other hand, the Britons, those who are very superstitious and believing on the myths and the long historical histories that they have been taking over and over from their ancestor till ancestors. They are just believing on those fable based or the fiction based stories, uh, and also having the belief on the superstitions as well. There's a complete kind of a compare and contrast in front of you. Through the artists, you could understand the American modernity in the New World, and on the other hand, Mr. Lord Canterville, you would be able to analyze the old traditions and the old world of the Britons that they have been following from their late time. Uh, this thing is being clear over here totally. Next, we're having the reflections of Britain's and the American cultures. What Britain believes, what American believes, this thing is being cleared in front of you through the Lord Canterville and Mr. Otis, Mr. Hiram B. Otis. This thing is being very clear through the characters themselves. The reflection has been very openly cleared. Okay, so next we are having the chapter number one. When the chapter number one open, we get to know that the story begins with Mr. Hirambi Otis, the American minister, who is just the buyer of the Canterville Chase, and he is not a preacher but a wealthy man with a diplomatic title who wishes to purchase the Canterville Chase, and his wish came true. He purchased the that Chase, and he is an old English, which the Canterville Chase is very old English countryside house. The seller of the house, the Lord Canterville, who is the current owner of that chase, he wants Mr. Otis before selling the house. He was being very courteous man and honest man. He just tried to warn Sir Hirambi Otis regarding all the things that the people, including his family members, have faced within this chase. He just tried to warn that it may be very harmful for your family to survive within this chase. So, despite all these things being very belonging from the modern and the modernity culture, the Sir Hirambi Otis, he just tried to ignore all those things and the beliefs that whatsoever Sir Canterville or Mr. Canterville tried to tell him and warn him, being very courteous to him, but being belonging from a very, you could say, the modern background, he just ignored all the things that whatsoever the Mr. Lord Canterville has told him. He also told that this house or this place is being haunted since 1584 after the assassination of his wife, like killing his own wife Eleanor. Later, Mr. Austen's responses to Mr. Lord Canterville that America is modern, rational country and does not believe in the ghost. He stated that I will take the furniture and the ghost to our valuation. If there's a such thing as a ghost in Europe, we have it in America too. Like according to that, he said that if such things being existed, if they're having such kind of existence, then might be in America we must having these things as well. So over here we get to know his kind of a non-seriousness towards this statement that Lord Canterville has showed through his stories and things that what they has just witnessed by their self. So the remark shows his practical materialistic attitude and complete disbelief in a supernatural way. The Canterville family warning the Lord Canterville insisted on the warning artist out of honesty. He tells them about the ghost, terrifying appearances. Several family members and a servant witnessed the ghost, and many servants have left their jobs in fear. Even Lady Canterville herself, her grand aunt, become very nervous in the house, and despite the warnings, again we could say that Mr. Otis least bother and purchase the Canterville chase. Again, the introduction of family is being done. It's been clear. All the things and the you could see the traits and the qualities and likeness and dislikeness and their thoughts of each character has been discussed very clearly in the chapter number one and through these video slides. It's clear. Now, uh, when the Otis family arrive at the Canterville Chase, the family there was a fine July evening. Everything was really very good. Within the novel, when you'll be reading, Oscar Wilde has created a kind of nostalgic feeling within the novel that everything was very fine. The squirrels were there, the birds were chirping, the trees were having a kind of a like onomatopoeia. He has used it. They were swish and swoosh. Sounds were coming from the surrounding. The atmosphere is very good up till the artist family arrive. Suddenly, when the artist family arrive, the black clouds appear in the sky, the squirrels just hide in their moles, and the birds are not chirping. Now the trees are also not singing. No voice of this, now no rustling voice of the trees. There's nothing is happening, and there's only quiet silence in the environment. He just tried to create a very scary kind of atmosphere in the mind of the reader, trying to creating a imagery within the mind of the readers through making this kind of a scene. So uh, when they step in within the Canterville Chase, Mrs. Umney, she was a housekeeper who's been looking after the Canterville Chase for the several years. She welcomed them very warmly. And then what happened later on when the all the artist family they were having the tea in the lounge, what they have noticed a blood stain on the near to the fireplace. When they just ask about or inquire about this blood stain, Mrs. Amne, she told whole story about that. This is the blood of Lady Eleanor, the wife of Sir Simon the Canterville. She was murdered in this place, and the blood stain is the, you could say that, a kind of a mark over here which can't be removed for the several years. She told about the story and she explained the story of Lady Eleanor, that this blood stain is being over here since 1575, and she added that this is the renewed by the daily, this blood stain is being renewed by the ghostly powers. But Washington artist being very practical and efficient, he just took out a bleach product like named as pink the Pinkerton stain remover, a Pargent detergent. He just took it out and just tried to he just sat on his knees and he just wipe out all the blood stain from the floor. For a time being, that blood stain was being removed, but what happened? Again, a kind of a, you could say, the scary or the a very frightening kind of environment that Oscar Wilde created. That suddenly the cloud becomes to having the thunder, and the clap of thunder strikes, and the light flashing. The lights were just they were just flashing on and off, such kind of a thing, a kind of a scary thing was being happening. And what causes Mrs. Amne faint down, and being very practical and rational, Lotus family just think of that might be because of the bad weather. The weather is not fine, that's why it's thundering, and because of the thundering, the electricity run out, and maybe because of that, that's why the bulbs are flickering, because the high and low voltage, the bulbs are flickering. Under this situation, they were being very calm and relaxed and being very practical and just concerned or link this thing to the scientific way. So over here, you would be linking this Victorian era spectrum traits, and along with that, the American beliefs, being very skeptical. Then we are having the ending of the chapter number one. The artist, however, laughs off the incident and refuses to take it very seriously. This set the stage of a clash between old British superstition and the American rationalism. Thank you. This is the end of the video, or the end of the chapter number one. The series would be continued for all the chapters. Stay tuned with that, and all the for now we have to wait for upcoming more sizzling kind of explanation for each chapter. Stay tuned. Thank you so much. Allah Hafiz.